It is 7 o'clock. I will call the May 7th City Council meeting to order. Start with roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Anna Michael,
Here.
Ritter,
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
Thank you, council. Everyone's present, Mayor.
Okay, I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Tonight on our agenda, we have first our consent agenda, which is number 1, the approval of the minutes from a council meeting of April 16th and approval of pay ordinance 877. Anyone have a question or any discussion of a consent agenda item? If not, a motion to approve, please.
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Anna Michael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay, call to public. Mike, did we receive, or Lana, did we receive any email or calls?
No, we did Mayor.
No.
Comment. Okay. Item 3, old business. We have none, so we'll go to number 4, new business. A, receive 2019 audit report.
Yes, council. This is our annual audit that's prepared by Berberich and Trahan each year. I see on the online we have Karen Lynn and Emily Sheldon are with us tonight. I think it'll probably be Karen, the one presenting the findings. So Karen, hopefully you can hear me. I'll turn it over.
Yes.
I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. Thank you. Yes, I am Karen Lynn with BT & Co. I am the director, and I also have Emily Sheldon. She's on the line with us this evening as well. What I would like to do is to just present the results of the audit. Those are the items from the audit process that are important to you to hear from us directly as the auditors. The documents that you have in your packet include the financial statements as well as one document that's entitled Report to the City. And that report is the one that has the conclusions from the audit process, and that is the one that I want to go through with you this evening. So first, our responsibility is to perform the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Those standards require that we plan and perform the audit in order to form a conclusion as to whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So we designed our audit with that objective in mind, and we were able to form an opinion that states that, in our opinion, the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And that is the highest form of opinion that can be given to a set of financial statements. I would remind you that these financial statements are in accordance with the regulatory basis of accounting, which is the basis that the state of Kansas does prescribe for those municipalities that choose to not have their financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We also do perform the audit in accordance with Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide. That guide does prescribe for us to test some statutory and some other test work that we perform as a part of the audit process. Also, as a part of the audit, we do perform some testing on accounting policies and practices to make sure that they're consistently applied from one year to the next and that there's nothing unusual in those practices that we need to bring to your attention. We also look for any significant or unusual transactions that have occurred over the course of the year. And if there's anything of that nature, again, we would look to make sure that that it was treated consistently and that it was appropriately handled. We also would look for anything that would be reliant on management's judgment or on a significant estimate in the financial statements. Over the course of this audit, there was nothing in any of those three areas, either accounting policies or significant or unusual items, or anything reliant on management's judgment that we need to bring to your attention. We did have a few audit adjustments that were made as a part of the audit process. These are included in this packet at the very end. They're provided here for your information so that you can see the entries that were made. There's nothing in any of those entries that we would consider to be unusual or of concern, just ordinary adjustments that are made as a part of the audit process. The next couple of items here in this presentation are items that we would bring to your attention because anything that would fall into these categories could be things that would be red flags of more serious issues. And they would include things like disagreements about accounting matters, consultations with other accountants, any issues or problems with the audit process. For example, if there was information that we requested during the audit process that wasn't provided to us, that would be an example of something that could be an issue or something that could be a red flag of a more serious issue. We do not have anything that would fall into any of those types of issues or categories that we would bring to your attention. In fact, we would want to convey to you that we had great assistance and great cooperation from Bonnie and everyone at the city. Information was provided and readily available to us, and all of our questions were answered. And so we appreciate all the assistance that we received during the audit process. Excuse me. The last item that I want to bring to your attention is the letter that is in this packet that's on the city's letterhead. This letter is required by our audit standards, and it does include a lot of information that is provided to us during the audit. It has information that supports the financial statements. This information is important, we believe, to you as a governing body as you fulfill your fiduciary responsibility. And as you read through the financial statements, to have this information available to you to read concurrently with your reading of the financial statements so that you can have that information to help understand all of the information and the policies underlying those financial statements. So we do encourage you to read through this letter and hopefully it can help you understand the policies surrounding the financial statements and help you fulfill your fiduciary responsibility. And if you have any questions about anything in that letter, we would be happy to try and answer those for you. And you can relay those questions to us and we would try to answer those for you. So with that, those are the conclusions from the audit process, and we're happy to try and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions from council?
Was that letter in the? Not seeing
It's
it
in this.
in the electronic version.
Oh, well.
Yeah, this letter may not have been in the electronic version. I apologize. I can
Okay.
upload that. It's available here. The hard copies are in your boxes.
Okay.
If you go back, you'll have a thicker document that's the financial statements, and then the thin one, which was the report to the council that Karen just went over. Sorry, yeah, I forgot to include it. I forgot to upload it in the council packet.
Okay. Other questions?
I would like to add, and I know Bonnie is she's here in the building, but she's visiting us remotely. Just want to commend her work and really everybody in the upfront office there. 2019, we implemented the new accounting software. So that was a major effort, and to get through that major effort throughout the course of the year, importing old information from our old package into the new, and then continuing on with the administration and the finances throughout the year, and then to have the audit come up as clean as it did, I think was very impressive, and much of that credit goes to Bonnie and Nancy and Erica and Lana in the front office. So I want to thank them for their work throughout the year for that.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
All right, so if we have no other questions, then I guess our action would be to accept the report from the auditor. Is that correct?
Yep.
Would someone like to make a motion to accept
I will
the,
make a motion to accept the audit report as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item B, consider archery club lease for Widow Big Knife Park.
Yes, Council. I included in your packet some revisions to the lease that we have with Prairie Traditional Archers Club. Essentially, those revisions would allow public use of Widow Big Knife Park that's currently used by the Archery Club. All archery-related activities would be suspended each April of the year to allow public use. This came about. We've had complaints over the years about people wanting to mushroom hunt the property. Apparently, that's been a popular place for mushroom hunting in years past, and they've been told that they can't go on the property unless they're a member of the archery club. So, Ron Gray. I worked with him, and they were very cooperative, and they're in agreement with the revisions that I've made to the lease. Now they'll still need to get it approved by their board, but Ron believed that these would be workable. So, unless there's questions, would recommend authorizing the mayor to enter into this new lease agreement.
Did anyone else get any comments or hear anything from anyone regarding the lease on the council?
Well, I had someone talk to me about it. And so I was really, really glad that it was already on the agenda, that I didn't have to bring it up, because it was not really remembering exactly how we left it last time. But the person that I talked to wasn't a citizen, but I think somebody who uses the club or is in the club. And they were just told me that they were, because of questions and because people were out there, they were asked by Ron probably or someone in the club to not to go do any shooting until, the month is over or just for a while. So I think they were proactively already asking their members not to go use the range until things could get kind of settled. So, so I'm glad that there's a agreement with them, because, in my opinion, if they have access to it, it's off limits to the rest of the people in the city. But if people don't follow the rules, we don't want anyone getting hurt. So I appreciate the archery club for doing this and allowing that month to be an exception and them using it for their practice and events and things. So, but that was it. It wasn't really a complaint. It was kind of a, what do we do? It was kind of a, what do we do? And, what about signs? And I'm like, it was my thought before the agenda came out that some kind of sign needs to be put up one way or the other as to, okay, stay off the property or the opposite. So thank you.
Sure. Rob, anything? Kevin, or Danny, anything to add on this item? Questions or discussion?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
No, Mayor. Thank you for asking. And I would make a comment, if I can, for all who are listening, for any remote participants, if you can please mute. We're getting a little bit of feedback from somewhere.
Okay.
I was about to say the same thing. Thank you, Kevin. I have nothing, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
So you need a motion to enter into the agreement?
No.
Mr.
Gray, if you want to invite
It's like, it's like
Ron Gray, are you on the line, and would you like to address the council?
Yes, I'm here.
Is there anything you would like to add or say?
No, I think everything's kind of calmed down now. We'll just pick up our targets in March and close the range down for the month. I've talked to the members of the club that really have an opinion in this, and they're all on the same boat as I am. Just try to make you guys happy and make everybody else happy, so we don't have to deal with this anymore.
Okay.
Because it's just it's been a problem for the last 11, 12 years, however long we've been down there.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion. We authorize the mayor to enter into the agreement with the archery club for Widow Big Knife Park.
I'll second the motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Lana. Our next item is item C, discuss reopening plans and schedules for summer events.
Yes, council, this has been obviously a big topic of discussion with everybody everywhere, and we're no exception. First of all, I did want to update, about the time I finished writing the staff report on Friday, it became obsolete because when I was writing it was before the county commission had their meeting Friday afternoon as to what their response was going to be to the governor's plan, which came out Thursday evening. I'm assuming you've all seen the governor's plan and are at least vaguely familiar with it. I've included it in the packet just for an informational standpoint. But the Board of County Commissions essentially have adopted the state's plan, with the only difference being the start date. The county health officer issued an order on Thursday that extended the stay-at-home order till May 11th, which is Monday. The state's plan opened up the state this Monday. So we had an extra week, but starting Monday, essentially, we will be on the state's plan. On parallel tracks, the county had a ad hoc committee formulating the county's reopening plan, and the two parallel each other pretty well. They both have 4 phases, and with increasing numbers of businesses that can open and decreasing restrictions as you go through the phases. Both plans emphasize the transition from one phase to the next will be based on health metrics, number of cases, number of hospitalizations, deaths, things like that. The state plan, kind of surprisingly to me, has, at least the public messaging part, has specific dates where phase 1 could happen, or their phase 1 started May 4th. Phase 2 could start as soon as 14 days, so May 18th. Phase 3 could start as soon as 14 days after that, but it also has the caveat that those phases will be transitioned based on health metrics. The gating criteria, I think, is where they were relying on from the wording from the White House plan. So that's changed since I wrote the staff report, but I'm not sure that much of our recommendations and discussion has really changed much. In the meantime, Jay and Justin have had one conference call after another with county parks and recreation people, and also people from our rec league. So us and Gardner and Spring Hill and Baldwin, about the summer ball programs, things like that. I've had further discussions with cities about pool openings and community centers as recently as this afternoon. So some of the stuff, this is all kind of a moving target, but I think in general, what we've concluded hasn't changed much since the recommendations that I put here in the staff report. So one other thing that was not clear to me, and I don't think is really clear in the public messaging even yet, is we know that Johnson County's phase 1 started 1 week behind the state's phase 1, well, are we now just going to go with the state's phases from here on after, or what? So the answer to that is yes and no. The county health officer or the board of county commissions acting as the health board for the county will make an independent decision about moving from one phase to the next. So it's going to be a county decision, but it cannot precede the state's decision about moving from one phase to the next. So, for instance, if the state decides that we're going to move to phase 2 on May 20th, the county can't decide we're going to move to phase 2 on May 18th. We would have to wait for, but the county could decide that we're going to move to phase 2 on the 24th. So we can't precede the state, but the county does have the latitude to lag the state by some degree. So that's all we know right now. So the dates are hard. I've tried I think in our messaging and my messaging to you and to the community, I'm going to try to avoid dates. We only know one date right now. And the one date is when we're going to enter into phase 1, and that's on Monday. It's the only date I know. So after that, it's going to be, we're going to follow the counties, basically the counties' movement into the phases. I know the state plan has those dates certain. Those are, I think there's going to be expectations that those dates will occur. And on the phase 3 date, if there's a business that can open in phase 3 and they open their doors, and we've not gotten into phase 3 yet, there will be confusion around that issue, I think. But regardless, that's where we are. So that's the kind of the framework. So what we've tried to do is formulate our plan, and I kind of break it into sort of 3 different parts. The first part is the staffing. What am I going to do with the staffing coming back? So I'll go into that a little bit. The second phase would be the recreation programming. What are we doing about softball and swim leagues and the programming stuff? And then the third phase would be facilities opening. So it'd be City Hall, Community Center, and most significantly, the pool is been the most significant topic of discussion around the county so far. We know there's Roland Park and one other
Prairie Village.
Prairie Village and Roland Park have both already said we're not opening our pool this year. Overland Park had some sort of a recommending advisory committee met last night, and will recommend to their council that they don't open any pools either this year. That their council won't talk about till May 18th. Other cities I was on a conference call this afternoon. Other cities I think are going to kind of keep their powder dry a little bit for now. They're going to proceed as though they may open mid-season and kind of prepare for that, but make the final decision later in the year. I think it was Lenexa that came out last week with a plan that they're going to try to open one of their pools this year, and they have some guidelines, some guidance around that. But so that's the overall landscape of where we are as opposed to where we were Friday. So in the staff report, I've tried to kind of summarize what the current staffing level is and what we're doing now. I put in the appendix to the report, I put the 3 kind of personnel orders that I've issued here just internally since the COVID shutdowns have started. We have some employees that are on duty and just working a regular shift. Some employees that are working from home. A number of employees who are off duty, so they're not working, they're staying home, but they're still getting paid. And we have 5 who are currently furloughed right now. So furloughed without pay from the city. So in our definition of furlough, that means they're still city employees. They still get insurance benefits. They're still in our system. They're not leaving, but they're not getting a paycheck. So on any given day, I've got this chart up right here. Any given day, about a third of our workforce is on duty. About a third is off duty, just not working but still drawing pay. 5 or so would work from home on any given day, and then the 5 that are furloughed. So that's kind of where we are right now. when phase one starts on Monday, I'll be getting a communication out tomorrow. I'd like for all of the off-duty personnel to return to work. So we're going to have essentially double the on-duty workforce starting on Monday, and I'm pretty comfortable doing that. Most of our crews are one or two person crews. We don't have close office spaces. We don't share desks among employees. When they're on a job site, they can maintain safe distances and certain other practices that we can employ to do that safely. I'm still going to encourage those who can work from home to continue working from home. And I'm going to look at the populations who are at greater risk, so either have underlying healthcare issues or advanced age. I'll look at those on a case-by-case basis. So some of those may remain off-duty. So that'll just be a judgment. We got a handful of those that I think those folks should stay away if they can. So that would be starting on Monday. Then when we move to phase two, I'm going to bring the 5 back off of furlough. So phase two, I'll still want folks to work from home if they can. We'll still be sensitive to the the people who are at greater risk, but I'll bring back the 5 furloughed people. So essentially by phase two, we'll pretty much be at full staff back on duty each day. At that time, phase two, I'm not sure if now's the time to talk about, City Hall. I don't plan on opening City Hall phase one. City Hall opening would be phase two. So what we're doing to prepare for that, it'll look a lot like the retail stores that are open now. Nate and Steve have been working on some plexiglass dividers, barriers for at the counter. We'll have signage around City Hall about maintaining social distancing. We've ordered face masks for the employees that can wear if they want to. We'll encourage them to wear those if they're going to be in close contact with one another or contact with the public. We're not going to require them to wear those. We also have masks. We'll be encouraging the mask use in City Hall, but I don't think we're going to require members of the public to wear masks if they come in. Municipal court is one thing that I don't think I put in the staff report, but the judge and prosecutor will be holding municipal court in person Monday evening in this room. So the plexiglass barriers, we'll have one for the judge, one for the prosecutor, and one for Erica. We will be, we've got a supply of disposable masks on the way. We'll be here, fingers crossed, by Monday. We're going to require, the judge wants to require the wearing of masks in the courtroom. So they'll be doing that. They're reaching out to those on the docket to get their ticket paid online and to kind of reduce the docket as much as they can. We'll have hand sanitizing stations set up by the bathroom. So that'll be our first test open to the public.
Going to rearrange the seating.
Yeah,
we
may take the seating out.
2/3 of the seating.
Space the seating. There's a number of other things. We might have people wait in their cars and
text them in or call them in.
So there's a couple still little details we need to work out tomorrow and Monday. But so court will be held here, and we have a social media push on that. If anybody's got an item on the docket, plan to be here. If we hear from somebody they're compromised, immunosuppressed, I'm sure we'll be working with those folks as we go. So not a whole lot more detail on city employees and City Hall staff, or as far as City Hall opening. I think that about covers what our plans are on that. And I think also kind of in general, a lot of this is just informational for you guys. If there's something that you want us to consider doing something else, let's discuss it. I don't think we need a formal motion on all this. But if you hear of anything that you'd like us to consider another path, that's kind of why we're presenting this. I'm going to bring Jay and Justin in here for the recreation programming and the community center before we get to the pools. Um, Jay has been talking quite a bit, like I said, with our league partners about baseball and softball. Before we get to that, soccer is canceled. We don't have a season this year. We've processed refund a couple weeks ago. It's unfortunate. It's over. We're still are holding out hope for baseball and softball. And Jay, I'll invite you to jump in, but I was going to share this email that you shared with me today. And this is an update based on Jay's conversations with the league. Unless things progress faster than they think, they're going to have a new registration deadline of June 5th. Practices will start in phase 2. If phase 2 isn't reached by June 22nd, then they will have no season. Games will be played in phase 3 of the plan, which means pretty much throughout the month of July. Can you read that? Is it too? Throughout the month of July, with makeups games scheduled in August, and there would be an 8-game season instead of 12. So it looks like the league is planning on putting out a statement on Friday of next week regarding this plan. That'll give time for the other league partners to have this discussion with their councils. Swim team is all hinged on our pool. We'll talk about the pool here in a little bit. Jay, did you have anything else to add on the baseball or any other programming that's not associated with the pool?
Excuse me, not specifically. I think on the baseball, softball stuff is, just trying to make like everything else, just trying to make it so we provide a safe environment, but also, knowing that kids been cooped up. So just trying to walk that fine line of seeing if we can make it work. So like Mike mentioned, a week from tomorrow, we're going to put out a kind of a press release type of thing that will go to each community. So everybody's feeding the same information. We're all on the same page. So it's kind of a wait and see on that as of right now.
I did want to point out we had this discussion with the park board on Monday night, and there were several members of the park board that really wanted us to proceed in a direction that would have at least part of the season, at least for now. Let's don't just throw in the towel just yet, I think was the main message about the ball seasons for sure. Okay, I'm going to move on then to the community center, senior center. So community centers are specifically listed in the state plan as opening in phase 2. Definition of a community center is different for each one. Ours is unique in some ways. I think we kind of split ours into 2 parts. One would be the senior center cafeteria area and the exercise room. That'd be one part. And then the gym would be kind of another part for us.
Gymnasium.
The gymnasium. Yeah. Not Great Life, but yeah, the gymnasium. Based on the parameters in phase 2 and the parameters in phase 3, I think we can go ahead and open up the community center and exercise room for rentals and generally for public as early as phase 2. But we're not entirely comfortable doing that for the gym because we have open gym, people play basketball, it's in close proximity to one another. When people rent that thing out, they tend to have larger groups gather there. And so we think it's more appropriate to hold the gym closed until phase 3. So that will be our plan unless something changes. The discussion is, and I heard from Jay, but also other communities. If you have a space that you're renting, what's your obligation to make sure that your renters are meeting the social distancing guidelines and things like that? Maybe 9 out of 10 renters will be just fine, but you have that other one. I don't know how much policing. I mean, we can do a fair amount. It'd be like any other law that someone might be breaking. If they're in there shooting off fireworks inside, we're gonna stop them from doing that. So if we see it, we'll say something. But in general, I don't think it's a reason to not have rentals because someone might break the rules. So that's why I'm pretty comfortable we can open those things up in phase 2, and then the gymnasium in phase 3. Similar to that concept with Great Life, gyms and fitness centers are kind of top of conversation, really, with the county's plan and with the state's plan. Pretty well defined in those. We expect Great Life to follow those parameters and open when it's appropriate for them to open. So we're not telling them they can or can't at this point. Parks and playgrounds got a lot of discussion. They are specifically listed. The exterior or outside courts are listed in the state's plan. They were listed in the county's plan. I think they pretty much aligned on those. We are going to, let's see, what did I say we're going to do, Jay? We're going to open the sports courts in phase 2, but keep playground equipment off limits until phase 3. And I think that's consistent with the state's plan. Jay, do you have any more detail on that?
No, that sounds right. The reason we went with phase 3 on the playground equipment was because of the proximity and the constant, touch, hand touch on all that equipment with the kids. So
yeah,
and that is consistent with the plans.
Okay. All right. So now we're down to anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns on any of that so far? Okay. All right. Well, we're down to the pool then. I talked a little bit about most of the cities in Kansas City are making decisions on their pool now or this week, and I've summarized those already. There's a list of other cities who have closed their pools. This is state of Kansas. Well, yeah, this is in the state of Kansas. I do know that Manhattan closed pretty early, but they did it for fiscal reasons. They supplement their pool operations a lot through the general fund. They don't charge much, and so they're going to save a lot of money by closing the pool. So they kind of did it pretty early. In the state plan, surprised me that pools were listed as being able to open in phase 2. The county's plan had those as possible in phase 3, but obviously both of them have the caveat that they need to follow guidelines or restrictions or the recommendations of the CDC about distancing and groups gathering and wiping down surfaces and policing those sorts of things. And so when we start the thought experiment about how are we going to, if we're going to, when and how can we open and how can we maintain a safe environment, follow those state and CDC guidelines with our pool, a lot of things start coming up that could be barriers to that. The first thing would be training of lifeguards. On any given year, about half the training certifications are good for 2 years. And so we have about half of the lifeguards will turn over every year. So any given year, we have to train half of them. There's no way we can train them and maintain these guidelines. You can't rescue someone from 6 feet away. So that's an issue. This idea that you're going to put 15 to 18-year-old lifeguards on the front line of enforcing a global pandemic health order is troublesome. PPEs might be costly or difficult to obtain. We may have to hire additional staff to disinfect restrooms and surfaces, wipe down surfaces. So there's just a number of things that to us make that difficult. So our recommendation, and I haven't, Jay, I'd like you to talk, Jay or Justin, on this a little bit, but what I've heard in discussing with my groups it's really only reinforced this idea that I don't think we should open our pool before phase 4 or the phase out phase of the state's plan. And there is a point in the season where it gets so late in the season that it's just not worth the trouble of opening. So what we're recommending, at least at this time, and like the mayor said early on, we don't need to make a decision on the pool tonight. But I would feel comfortable we revisit this as we get closer to the date. But as it looks now, unless we can reach phase 4 by sometime around that last week in June, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us open the pool. I mean, I don't know how we could do that safely and meet the guidelines we're expected to meet. So that's the kind of recommendation at this point. I don't think there's any reason to say we're not opening our pool this year yet. But I do think we should set an expectation for ourselves that even a phase 3 opening would be very difficult for us. Would be difficult. So I want Jade, if you have anything to add, I'd like to have some discussion on the pool issue specifically, if we could.
Well, obviously the groups that Justin and I with the Zooms, with the programmers, that's their job, that's their daily thing, and they're all fired up wanting to get pools going. And then you get some more of the directors and that types of thing involved, and it's more of the cautious route. But we do have a Parks and Recreation Directors meeting tomorrow where I know this is going to be discussed more. One thing that the directors had been talking about was trying to get some unity on this, on the pool, at least in the KC metro area, with the concern of, let's say Lenexa is the only one that opens. Well, guess what? Everybody's going to Lenexa, and then it's going to cause them issues. So now I don't know if we'll be able to do that or not. It's one thing that's been discussed of everybody has their own governing body, but trying to get on the same page if we can. But my concern is purely numbers, and which is mentioned in there in terms of how many people we typically have, and being able to follow all the protocols of keeping the place sanitized, making sure we have the social distancing, all those different things, and not putting lifeguards in a position to where they have to be concerned about those items instead of watching the pool itself and doing what their regular job is of the safety of the patrons. So it's a big, just like everything we've been talking about, it's a kind of a double-edged sword on how we move forward on that. But that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think even if we did open it, it would be an adult, a non-lifeguard adult or 2 or 3. However, those would be the people enforcing the social distance. It's not, the lifeguards are there to protect the people in the water, not to do any of that. So if we want to do it, there'll be some other adults that will have to be present to manage that aspect of it. I in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, and that's what Justin and I talked about. It's going to take additional staff in order to allow the lifeguards to do their job, to have additional manager type people out there monitoring all the non-regular lifeguard jobs that now would need to be done in this situation, as well as additional staff to, constantly cleaning the restrooms, wiping down any handrails, steps, handholds, chairs, all that kind of stuff too. So.
Right. So you need any comments from council, thoughts from anybody?
Well, my thoughts had been basically, and having spoke to the mayor about this a little bit, is we really want to be able to open it, but it doesn't seem safe to do so. And my thoughts before reading your comments and Jay's comments here was the same thing. Is, you have young people that work there. They're going to have a hard time taking care of adults who don't want to wear masks or do whatever social distancing. Will we have enough young teenagers that are going to be allowed by their parents to go work in an environment where they may be in close contact with people? So it's difficult because, we want to be able to have it there, but it also, I also fear having that many people potentially together in an area when we really aren't going to be sure where this is at yet. So I like the plan you have right now, knowing that it wouldn't be sooner than those dates that, we could do it if we got to that point and everything is cleared up, but not to try to rush into it was basically my big concern. And holding off seems to be the logical way to do it.
I was going to say, I like what I'm seeing and what you've outlined. Opening it at the beginning of phase 2, which could be as early as May 18th, does not seem practical, does not seem capable. Again, the lifeguards being the younger kids, and even if they were the younger ones, the lifeguard's duty is to keep the eyes on the pool and for safety in there. So regardless of the age, the lifeguards need to be doing their job and having their time off from that, having been a lifeguard. It seems easy standing out there just watching, but it wears on you. So the enforcement of the social distancing, things like that, would need to be other people. Likewise, the other thing that's going to be a consideration in here is, do we sit there and track how many people are coming into the pool and have a limit of only 100 people? If so, then you're also going to have people that show up to attend the pool that are going to be unhappy that they don't get to get in until somebody leaves. And so monitoring the number of people in the pool would be another issue. Now, if it's phase 4, then that's where that limit is not really in play anymore. So I think this gives enough time to be able to determine how quickly we are moving from phase, in Johnson County, phase 1/2, potentially being a week apart, into phase 3, phase 4. Is that on a 2-week, okay, everything's looking good, or does it delay longer? So I like what I'm seeing.
Thank you, Rob. Kevin, Anna, Michael, anything to add?
Yes, thank you. First of all, regarding the city staff reentry plan, I would encourage Mike to work closely with other city administrators to share best ideas. There's a lot to be gained right now in engaging closely with your peers in municipal leadership. I know at a business level, I'm gaining a lot from talking to other business people, and I'd encourage you to be engaged with your peers as well. Regarding programming, I was glad to hear that you're engaged with the Parks Board, because I think, given the group of people that form the Parks Board, I think that there's some good input that can come from that group as well. The response of people, citizens, customers, participants, if you will, is going to govern a lot about how we transition going forward. And so I think that's a good citizen board to hear what people think about the program that you're putting in place. I would encourage a strong public communication process to inform our citizens about what we're thinking in our community. So great opportunity to engage our awesome communications director in this. Mike, I'll rattle off a few questions here. I don't want to go back and forth, so I'm just going to rattle off some questions that I banged out while you were talking, and if you can kind of try to respond to those. First, I would ask if you've got input from your staff as to their comfort level or lack thereof for reentry into kind of the normal workplace or the office environment. What plans have you put in place, or are you communicating out for office PPE and sanitization? And in particular, when you have people that are working collaboratively in close proximity, and also maybe including cleaning of individual spaces or common spaces, what direction are you giving there? And then my last question really relates to some of this programming and some of the things I'm hearing about alternatives. Has there been any thoughts about alternative programming that Parks and Rec can do, maybe, given that we can't use some of the facilities that we have? That's all I got. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin, good questions, all good questions. The first one you had related to input from staff about, and I assume you're wanting to know their feelings about coming back and do they feel safe in the working environment and that. I have had direct conversations with a number of folks, and they range from why did we ever go home to begin with to I think I'd really rather work from home until this whole thing goes over. So it's kind of a case by case basis, and that kind of formulated the plan about essentially it kind of goes along demographic lines too. More people who are apprehensive about coming back are in higher risk groups, understandably so. That's why I say I'm going to have individual discussions with those folks about coming back or not coming back, or what the work environment looks like when they return. For the most part, departments, employees in the parks, in the water, in the sewer, in the streets department, they're all gung ho about getting back to work for the most part. So have had those discussions. Also had the discussions early on and ongoing with department heads about what's your staffing looking like in terms of being able to provide minimum public services. The critical services. Can you operate the way you're doing? We're starting to have, especially Ron Creason with the street department, starting to become concerned about some of the summer work getting done and things he's got on his plate, and he's starting to be concerned about workload when we come back. So yeah, those recommendations I've had, the plan moving forward has been kind of guided by those sorts of discussions. Your next question was about the PPE, sanitation, supplies. It is difficult to find. Well, it's not hard to find hand sanitizer. Our supplier, Purozone, we got a big supply of hand sanitizer kind of before it started, and they've been able to supply us with some of that. Mike's Liquor has some too. So hand sanitizer is pretty easy. So we've gotten that well stocked, and we'll get that to the department heads. Masks are difficult but obtainable. So I do have coming for each staff member a reusable cloth mask. So we'll give that out to every employee. Encourage them to wear that if they want to, but again, not require it. And then the disposable masks, like I talked about for court, are also coming. The one thing that we cannot get right now are the wipes. We've got feelers out for sanitation wipes. And then I also talked about the physical barriers that we've constructed. Like I said, we've really only have a couple of employees who are in any proximity to each other at all. So it's the concern there is the front facing, with the public, interactions with the public. So we've got those prepared already for court Monday, and then when we eventually open City Hall. Your last question about alternative rec programming, I don't have an answer for that. Jay or Justin, has that been a discussion with your groups at all?
Yeah, it has to a certain extent. Some of the bigger cities, and maybe even the smaller ones too, the ones that, are sounds like a cop out here, but the ones that have, a youth sports program or an adult sports program, those types of things have been digging in a little bit on trying to provide some things. It's something that Justin and I did discuss probably a week or two ago, but haven't really gotten into it too far in terms of trying to develop something. I don't think it's a bad idea. And I think as we're kind of back together again on Monday, working more in harmony, I guess you could say, that's definitely something we're going to look into in trying to get something out to keep, DeSoto Parks and Recreation in people's minds, as well as try to offer some type of alternative way to get away from things. So yeah, definitely a good idea, Kevin. It's something we have briefly talked about, but really not delved into it yet at this point.
Okay. Did you want to? Okay. Kevin Ritter, anything to add or questions?
No, I think a lot of great things have already been said. I agree with a lot of Kevin's questions and thoughts, and also Lori's. Mike, I think reaching out there for some of the supplies you can't get, or looking up on the CDC for ways to come up with alternatives that are out there, as far as like sanitizers for hard surfaces and things like that, Clorox mixes and things like that. I think they're out there. You just have to find them. If you need help, I'd be happy to help you find those. As far as the pool, I think that I think Mike's got it dead on. You're going to have trouble training these folks. Every year, Justin gives the CPR training. There's no way you can have one-on-one CPR training and not be within that kind of distance. So I think you're going to struggle with that. So I think those are some things to think about, and I think you are, Mike. I think there was some good stuff that you brought up. So I think you're all working hard at it, and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Danny, any questions or comments?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right.
I did want to add, the Parks Board did have the discussion about the pool, and they actually made a motion to kind of support staff's recommendation that's in the staff
I was
report.
going to say two other comments. One would be if we do open and we're dealing with capacity, it might be that we limit pool to residents only, as well as having an abbreviated, shortened pool pass, but pretty much everybody no walk-ins and just have them pre-signed up on a pool pass. Those two type things could help control and limit. The other question, and this is unrelated to the pool, but we've got fiber here in the internet in the building. The exercise room downstairs, is the Wi-Fi down there of adequate strength for any of the groups that are participating, whether it be Jazzercise or others, to where they could actually go ahead and have their classes when it opens up that stream at the same time?
Jay, do you know that? How's the Wi-Fi down in the exercise room?
Once we get into this kind of thing, that's probably a Justin question. I know Great Life has their own, and then ours, I know it in the gymnasium it works. I know it gets into the senior center. I've honestly never tried it in the fitness room. I'll let Justin try to answer that one.
I mean, it doesn't have to be answered tonight, but if that's something we could look into, because that would allow them to start meeting, but then those that are of ages that are concerned, high risk, can still participate remotely.
Good thought.
Well, I know Jazzercise right now. I've been talking with Jackie, who's the owner of the DeSoto site. They're doing a free, I think she said a free virtual so that people can work out at home right now. And they were going to continue that, but then they also wanted to, when we allowed them to offer classes on site as well. So at least through Jazzercise, it sounds like if they want to, once we allow them in, they can come in and work out. If they want to stay at home, they can still do their Jazzercise. It wouldn't be
well, and that Jazzercise, the Jazzercise, the Jazzercise group,
Wi-Fi set up, then or Wi-Fi working with that, then we could do that.
Yeah, the Jazzercise group was one of the ones that, because they've been doing virtual, when they come back and start doing in class, they could stream the class at the same time and basically meet both groups of in person and remote at the same time. So they were one of the ones that asked about that.
Yeah, we can. I'll check on that. I don't know. I think Justin's on here. He's more techie than I am, so I don't know if he's tried that in there or not.
Anything outside of the gym, it's hit and miss with the RG fiber stuff, and then the Great Life stuff. You can typically reaches pretty good, but again, that's kind of hit and miss as well. But it's also a secured. It's a secured site as well.
One thing that I did hear that some community was planning to do to control the gate, they're not selling passes, they're selling sessions. So you're going to buy a 2-hour session every day, and then they'll sell 80 tickets for a 2-hour session. You get your time. Then when they empty the pool, they clean all the surfaces, and then they let the next 2-hour session in. I mean, that's how they were planning to control the numbers, and then turnover, and then have time to clean in between. So
they can control the number of people too.
Right.
That's a good point.
That provides the cleaning in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's lots to think about to figure that out and
Yeah.
a little bit of time to do it. So
Yeah, we do. So we'll leave it. We'll leave it at that for this evening.
All right.
We need to make a.
I don't think that was everything that you had on your
No,
list
there's a
here.
couple more things.
All right.
Just a couple more things. Summer concert series supposed to happen in June. Won't be happening in June. We actually have got a hold of all of our artists, and we did. We paid one a $1,500 deposit, and Whitney heard from that one today that the deposit's good. Just whenever the rescheduling, even if it's next year, we're not
Is
going
that Travis Marvin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't lose it, even if it's all the way next year. So that was good news. So, I think we need to get the public messaging out that the concert series is going to be postponed, and that we may reschedule it in the fall sometime. Obviously, I think we'd have to be into phase 4 to hold that event, because it draws more than a couple hundred people each time. So.
But again, so I think I shared it with you. There was some clarification on the gatherings,
the mass gatherings,
and events that are held. Actually, it said I think inside or outside, as long when you are able to maintain the social distancing between people that might be somewhere, like for instance at a park, then those. The mass gathering applies to spaces where you cannot maintain social adequate distance.
Yeah, right.
So where you've got 90 people in this room, then that would apply. But if this 90 people were spread out, across a football field, that would not be considered.
Yeah.
That was directly off of the Kansas Department
Right.
of Health and Environment's frequently asked questions.
So I would think that would still be phase 3. 90 people would be
Definitely phase 3,
Yeah.
And it may even make more sense for phase 4. I was just saying, it's there. I mean, there is some. The 90 people doesn't mean 90.
Yeah.
Well,
like restaurants. I mean, restaurants they even phase 1 is
Right.
10 people per table, as long as the tables are 6 feet apart.
Right.
It doesn't seem like there's any limit. I'm not sure how that works in a concert setting. Haven't really had the discussion in my groups about how they would.
I guess if we
Right.
looked at the experience from last year's summer concert series, we were probably all fairly well socially distant. I mean, people were spread out in the park.
Might be able to make it happen.
Well, the thing I'd say about the concerts in the park is that, we chose June kind of for a good reason. It was a little bit earlier in the year. Putting it off till fall, more than likely, we're going to be safe to do it, more than likely, in the fall. And July and August are just hot times anyway for a concert. So, I mean, it seems to make most sense that,
Right.
okay, let's tentatively plan for September concerts. And, if they don't happen, they don't happen. But it's better than trying to question, okay, is July going to work? Is August going to work? Because it's too hot to do them in it. More than likely, we don't want to do them then anyway. We want an enjoyable time when we do it. We don't want it stressed. We don't want people coming in and saying, oh, am I too far from that? Why do it when it's going to not be a fun environment? I want to do them, but I say we put it off until September at the earliest. And
I don't even know that my opinion, I don't even know that we would do a full series.
Yeah, maybe just a couple of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Just a concert or a couple of concerts.
Yeah.
That might tie in pretty well then with the last item here is the 4th of July. Again, timelines phasing. The 4th of July is we'll get a couple thousand people down there probably. It's a big event.
Just make everybody stay in their car.
Well, yeah, I guess you could do it that way.
Drive in, right?
I've heard a few cities around that have already said the 4th of July is not going to happen.
Well, we've already paid for this show, right?
No, we haven't. That's actually the next.
I thought that was the next year's show.
No. Well,
the 2021.
That was. Yeah, it's kind of both things, though, right? We're putting a contract for next year, but this year's can be put off.
Yeah, no. So the agenda item that's next is for this year's show.
Oh, okay.
It is, and they've implemented a special deposit where you could give a deposit and it's good all the way till next year if we just cancel the show this year. So, it could be the summer concert series on the 4th of July. Yeah, we do something later in the fall and still have a fireworks display in September when there's a big concert too.
Of course, if we do postpone it from July, what if we coincided it with DeSoto Days?
Yeah, that's another thing. I see Rhonda Patterson is actually on the webcast here. We haven't had a discussion, at least I haven't. Maybe Jay has with DeSoto Days. Just what the current thinking is. It's later in August, and I assume they're just kind of holding pat right now. But we need to have some conversations with them. That's a good idea.
Because if that's late enough, we're into phase 4. It'd be a city event that would it be a fun addition to it?
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So, I'd like again to make put out the messaging now. The summer concerts will be postponed. 4th of July fireworks as well. I don't see the scenario where we can have 2,000 people down there by July 4th. And so I think the messaging now would be concert series and 4th of July postponed till a date in the future.
But you can't postpone the 4th of July.
Oh, no.
You can postpone the fireworks, but you cannot postpone.
Good point. I think so. Yeah, I think that concludes the items we're going to discuss. So these are summarized then in the very last page of the staff report. It just kind of shows a one-page summary, bullet item summary of our reopening plan. So I think this will kind of form the basis of our public messaging. We might get this document out with some caveats and notations on here. I think I'm going to remove the references. The top portion of the plan talks about the state's plan and the county's plan. I think I'm going to remove the county's plan from that since they've taken the state's. So clean this up a little bit and start pushing that information out. And then we still will need to come back and discuss concerts 4th of July and the pool opening at a later time. And that's our plan for now.
It's a good plan. One of the concerns I have about all of the plans is what they're going to follow as guidelines on whether things open or not. Because I still don't think we're testing enough to know true cases of this. And so I'm just afraid that things are going to open up because numbers look fine and steady, but it's because you're going to the doctor and they're telling you, no, we're not going to test you. And, and that's it. So if you go to the doctor with symptoms, but you're not tested, are you part of it or not?
Nope.
Probably not. And that to me is a big concern. Because I know of somebody that is happening with right now, and it's like, it's not a good thing. So, nothing we can do about that, but it does concern me that the things are going to get pushed through a little bit sooner than they should.
Yeah, and the other thing I've not seen at all is no one's planning for the scenario, but what if we have to go from phase 3 back to phase 2?
Right.
I mean, that's not
Second wave.
Well, it's very possible that it will.
on anybody's radar.
The big thoughts of most healthcare people are that there will be another bout of this in the fall time, and so we start to plan that we're going to open it all, in the events especially. I know we need to open up. I'm not saying we don't. We need to open things up. Businesses got to get going, but events, things that bring a lot of people together, we can survive a year without having to do those things if we have to. So.
Okay, we'll keep you informed as we go along.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mike. So let's move on to this similar item. Consider proposal for 4th of July fireworks display from Wald.
Yes,
Can I just make a motion? I accept it.
Okay.
Save some time.
Okay.
Well, we just kind of discussed it anyway, didn't we?
did. Yeah.
We know the whole story behind it, everybody.
Anybody have any questions?
So you're going to.
Can I make a motion? We accept the proposal for Walden Company and $11,793.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions about the motion? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Sorry, yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried, Mayor.
Okay. Item E, can discuss 2021 CDBG application.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. It's that time of year that we get to talk about our community development block grant projects. The submittal is due on May 22nd. So on the 21st of this month, we will have a public hearing at the next council meeting. You'll have to make a decision at that point of which projects you'd like to submit. Just real quick, 2019 project, which was the sidewalk along 83rd Street, is complete. We have been approved for reimbursement for that, so we'll be getting our money shortly. The 2020 project, if you recall, was the sidewalk from Ottawa Street to Shawnee Street, and that has been submitted, and we don't know the status of that. We probably won't until August, September. That's typically when they let us know that we've been approved or not approved for any funding. So we really kind of have almost three projects going on, and this is the 2021 project we need to decide and submit, like I said, on the 22nd of May. What you have before us on what we put together for our potential projects for you to consider was the sidewalk projects are generally score pretty well with them. We've had pretty good luck with that. And so the exhibit that I put together shows the projects that we actually talked quite a bit about last year, and included for the 2020 project along 82nd Street. So we still have the 1, 2, 3, and 4 for those sidewalk projects. Just a side note, the projects certainly in the older part of the Soto score better. Anything basically on the east side of town, there's just not gonna. There's no hope. The second census block group is south of, I think it's south of, well, it kind of curls around, but it's Lexington and about south of 87th Street. That area is marginal as far as the criteria from the CDBG folks and how they look at things, but certainly old part of DeSoto scores the best because that's really our lowest area of income, which is weighs pretty heavily on their scoring system. So one thing, also talked to Marshall Goodnight, our water foreman, said if there's any projects, utility things that we need to address, and he had talked about the water line on Wea Street. That's really been giving a lot of problems, just constant leaks and repairs and things like that. So we did 2 years ago get a community development block grant to replace the water line on Spring Drive. So I thought it would be a good idea to at least include this for your discussion as a project that we'd certainly recommend. In fact, I think I'd probably say that would be the one I would like to pursue. But certainly it's up to you, the city council, and also any kind of consideration that you might get from the public hearing. Block grants are about $100,000. That's the most you can get. I'd like to see that you have at least a $10,000 match for any kind of overages or anything like that that may occur. I haven't really looked at any kind of just defined pricing on the water line on Wea Street. We do have a fair amount of right of way. Right now, Marshall tells me the water line is underneath the street, so there's a lot of, when we do have to go in and repair it, there's cutting the street. We've got issues with getting citizens around to their property so they can get home. And he would like to actually, we talked about moving it to one side or the other. If there are problems, hopefully when you put a brand new water line, you won't have any, but if there were some sort of issue, we would have to get into the street to make any of those repairs. So with that, I will stand for any questions you may have and suggestions on projects you might want to consider for the 2021 Community Development Block Grant.
Okay.
How many homes are along Wea out there?
Actually,
I think he just had it up there, and I was trying to look.
Not a whole lot. It looks like about the same type of length as Spring Drive. Spring Drive didn't have nearly as many.
Quite a few.
But there's a few, yeah. There also is a couple vacant lots on there, at least one that I know for sure. I think that mobile home that's up there has also been removed. I don't know how old that is, but so there is a potential for maybe a couple additional houses at some point.
All right. Any other questions? Other project ideas? Can we demo the old water plant with CDBG funds?
Is it
All
kind of
right.
close?
I got another idea.
All right.
For that, you have another idea?
Yeah, so
Oh.
we have the these water system maintenance funds now. We have one for water, one for sewer, one for this building, the system. I think it's probably that might be a good use of those funds. So we have some money even this year in the 2020 budget for that. So that had crossed my mind for that.
Yeah.
We'd almost kind of put it on hold a little bit because it's still going to have the discussion about the redevelopment of that city yard, and so, but I don't think there's any scenario in the world where that building should stay.
Right.
We may as well go ahead and do it.
Well, I like the water line idea.
What about a water line and a side? There's no sidewalks on WIA there either.
Do it at the same time.
Yeah, we can certainly submit 2 grants. In fact, we've done that.
We could do one grant as long
One
as
grant
it's in
is
the same
either.
area. You can do
Add
water.
a sidewalk to the sidewalk, but I like the idea of taking care of infrastructure, and if we have a need for water line thing, I think it's a good time to do that with using funds to get it done. And we do a lot of sidewalks, and that's good, but yeah, if we could add a sidewalk
That would
with
connect
it.
to our new sidewalk on 82nd Street
Yeah.
that we would build the year prior, and
It's always good.
then maybe we could walk out to some sort of scenic overlook at the river at the end of that road.
It is a pretty nice view.
Yeah,
Like,
that
we
is-
really,
that is
that
the
last
best
house
spot
has a
right there.
really
Look at the
great
river.
view of the
I've
river.
gone down there a few times. Yeah, that homeowner on the very end's got a really
Yeah.
choice location.
But that would be my.
Rob, any comments?
No.
Okay.
Pretty much concur.
Kevin Ritter, any comments?
No, I like that WIA project.
Okay. Danny?
I like the WIA project also. That's it.
Just for clarity, did you want me or to include the sidewalk as well? Is that something?
That's something I threw out. I like it because it was like a $70,000 project. We might as well get as much of that grant money as we possibly can, right?
Well, it's
We can put it in there.
100,000. I thought you had that as 100.
I thought you had it as
Yeah,
a 70,000.
Well, that
Water
100,000
project.
was just, that was the max grant, so I figured
okay.
if we were going to put it in there, we'd put it in for
Okay.
100. So.
Okay.
If there's room for both.
I bet we can get it done.
Okay. Kevin, Hannah, Michael, any comments?
No, I like the discussion and support staff's recommendations.
Okay.
And also support WIA.
Thank you. That's all you need for now, right, Brad?
Yes.
Just
Yeah,
that
public
little
hearing
direction?
next meeting.
What's next?
Advisory
Executive
reports are
session?
next.
Do we have anything to talk about in executive session?
No.
Okay. Advisory reports, city administrator.
Yeah, I have a couple things. Wanted to let council know of a pretty significant repair bill we're going to have on one of our mainline dump trucks, the swap loader 2006 unit. It had some electrical issues and needs some engine wiring harness replacement on it. It's a massive project. Parts are expensive. The labor is expensive on it. It's over at Inland Truck Parts and Service right now. The estimate they have right now is $15,850. That vehicle is in the vehicle equipment replacement schedule to be replaced next year, but it's also in that program to be sold as an asset to go back in. So if we don't if we don't make this repair, we're not going to be able to sell that vehicle. Also, I was hoping to put off the purchase of a new vehicle at least for next year's budget, maybe the year after, to kind of extend that to help with the, kind of some of the budget concerns we've had. So discussing it with Ron, it's still a good serviceable unit. It actually got a new engine put in it 5 or 6 years ago, so the engine isn't as old as the chassis. It is one of our main units we use for snow plowing and just the daily stuff, so we can't really be without it for too long. So, unless anybody else has any objections to that or any better ideas or wants to do this job any cheaper, I'm all ears. But we'll have that as an expense in the street department, so that'll be coming up. It will be out of service for 4 to 6 weeks. Getting the wiring harness from the manufacturer is a long lead time. So, and I would say Inland Truck has been our go-to repair service for these larger vehicles, and they've always treated us really well. And I think, we've come to know those guys over there a little bit, and I think they're giving us a pretty good price on the amount of work to be done is pretty significant. So, wanted to let you know about that. Also, just there's not a whole lot to update, but just letting you know about the culvert issue on 95th Street. The pipe has been ordered. We didn't, I think on my last update, I indicated we didn't need as much as we thought. So only 60 foot of pipe. So it's $28,000 or so. It's going to be delivered tomorrow morning. And so our on-call, our contractor will be there mobilized and ready to install that. The hope is to get that installed tomorrow and get it backfilled and get the site closed back up. There will be restorations to do after that. So in total, I'm expecting between the pipe cost and our time, the contract costs, the project looking like now it's about a $50,000 deal. We have had, the mayor and I both have had some conversations with SRL. It's our contention that pipe was put in for the benefit of the railroad overpass. And everybody knows where I'm talking about. I'll pull it up on the map here. 95th Street, where the Sunflower rail spur goes over. There's this bridge here. So there's the bridge. It was constructed in '74 or so. The storm sewer pipe runs from about here under, kind of under these two support posts and exits on the other side of the bridge, somewhere in here. So it's a big 9 foot by 6 foot arch pipe. About half of it we're replacing. It's our opinion that that's within the railroad right of way, and so it's therefore it's Sunflower's maintenance responsibility. This truly is an emergency type repair that needs to be done. We decided, last week that certainly is something we had to do for the safety of the public, and we've kept Sunflower apprised of what we're doing, how much it's costing. They agree that we are probably the entity that has the clear authority to go in and make an emergency repair of this nature, considering where the rights-of-way lines might be and who has permissions to do what in what area. So they've agreed. They're aware of the costs. They don't have any concern that we're paying too much. They realize we're doing what needs to be done in the most expedient manner, but they haven't exactly agreed that it's their maintenance responsibility and that they'll be reimbursing us for the costs. So they're doing some research about property dedications and what they own and what they don't own, and they just don't have an answer on their side yet to those questions. So that's just kind of where we stand on it. So hopefully by the end of tomorrow, it'll be buttoned back up. It'll no longer be a safety concern. We'll have some cleanup restoration to do after that, and then some discussions about reimbursement. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But that's all the fun I was able to have this week.
All right. Any questions for Mike? Okay.
Yeah, Mike, how much on that property is theirs?
Well,
How much of it?
Yeah, that's kind of the question we're wrestling with. So you can pull up the Ames map, and I've got it pulled up here.
Turn on parcels and it'll shade those, Mike.
Yeah.
Scroll up just a little bit and click that.
So if you look at the parcels, this is what the Ames map shows, and it's important to understand that Ames is not the end all be all of property ownership and rights and obligations. But if you just look at what's there, this parcel right here, and if I just click on the ownership of it, it indicates that is owned. Well, it's not taxed. It doesn't indicate any ownership at all. But this
Mike,
clear.
Mike, could you scroll that down on the screen for us some? Thank you.
Is that where you're talking? Yeah. So that's a little different. I'm not sure what that means. That's different than, say, the other railroad right-of-way properties that we've been aware of. This stretch in here, it does indicate an ownership of. Oh, that's not the correct one. Anyway, so
That's Rosemary.
yeah,
That's
the it's difficult to say from the
Yeah.
Ames map exactly who has what liabilities in there, but just on its surface, this appears to be the tract that clearly was obtained for the purpose of the railroad, and there's no doubt that pipe is fully within that tract. The question does become, as we've seen out on Sunflower Road, some of these tracts are actually just easements. They're not actually ownership tracts. And so what the obligations, the chain of title, all that are some legal untangling to do, I think. But I think practically, really, and the mayor and I were talking about this this afternoon, there's no doubt that the culvert isn't there because the road needs it to be there. The road would be fine without the culvert. The culvert's there because the bridge needs it to be there. So that's our baseline argument, and so it's tricky. It's a tricky thing. So Sunflower, obviously wants to do their work in deciding what they think their rights and obligations are there. So open to suggestions about that.
We'll get Patrick on them. That'll get it sorted out pretty darn quick.
Yeah.
No pressure, Patrick.
No pressure.
All right. Anything else to add, Mike?
No. Nope.
All right. I think you answered the question. So now it is you, Patrick, city
Just
attorney.
Wanted to briefly let the council know that the Ashworth claim with the snowplow incident, the insurance company has reached a settlement. We may need to do some formal work in the future on that, but I am working. Part of the settlement is gathering up some additional documents and communications. So I've been working with Ron Creason and the maintenance records for that vehicle to get those to Mr. Clark's attorneys. But in principle, that's been worked out. So that's a good thing.
Okay. Brad? Thank you. Lana?
Yes, I need to put on a different hat, Mayor, if you'll bear with me for a minute. I'm going to come around to the front. So, I get emotional here. I'm standing before you as your representative as president of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. So you've supported me for 4 years in this endeavor, and next Friday will be my last board meeting for IIMC as the president. And as you know, I have 1 more year to serve on that board as the past president, and then they'll kick me out to pasture. But when I represented my hometown of DeSoto, and you and all of the people who have been behind me in this. This is what I wore, along with my red shoes, my red sparkle shoes, and my red shoes here. But you never saw the, well, some of you were in Birmingham, and people are still saying, how can city council people from small towns show up in Birmingham to see you sworn in? And I said, well, it's because they loved me. So I just want to say thank you so much. Because Mike gave me the heck yeah, go for it. And I didn't think that coming from small town DeSoto and at my age, that I would have won the vote of my fellow clerks, but I did. And I've been very blessed, been very humbled by it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed traveling. 2 of my conferences were postponed, one for Wyoming and one for Calgary, Canada. Those are in the fall, and good Lord willing, we will be past this COVID-19, and I will be able to fulfill those obligations. We'll see where that goes. It's still up in the air. My tickets were able to be transferred over to those dates because of COVID-19. Otherwise, I would have lost the money on those. But I just wanted to say how much I've appreciated all of the support you've given me. Patrick has spent much time taking minutes for me when I've been off representing the city for IMC. Nice taking minutes for me. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come over something for him. I just wanted you to know that it has meant the world to be able to do this. And it's also, I've had so many people tell me, wow, if you can do that, maybe I can do that. And I always tell them that C.S. Lewis says, you're never too old to begin and dream another dream. And it has truly been a dream come true for this old girl. So I just want to say how much I appreciate each one of you.
Well, thank you, Lana. We appreciate you and your efforts.
Lana represents us well wherever she goes, and we appreciate that, Lana. And we do appreciate what you all do and what you have done for all of your other city clerks. So,
Thank you.
The COVID sure has put a damper on your hugging, though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
It's a signature move you can't.
They even hug you because of that. So.
All right. Council comments. I'm going to start on the remote with Danny Lane. Do you have anything for the council tonight, Danny?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to appreciate it that Mike opened up the facility for some people that had some damage in the area. That was appreciated. And I was going to ask him, is that going to continue open this week, Mike? Or was it just 1 week?
Well, we put the notice out that it'd be through the week. This Saturday is not a brush dump day, so we can discuss that, and we can discuss about next week as well. Do you think there's still a need to have that open Saturday? I haven't talked to Ron about the traffic down there.
I don't know. I just heard from a few people that had damage up here, some on the hill and some down in the valley here. I know I had a lot of damage too when the 80-mile-an-hour winds hit down through here. So we lost the top of 40-foot trees. So anyway, yeah. So I just was. So a couple of people asked because some people have more damage and it's farther away to get to, and some of the places that is low lying, it's still hard to get in because the ground's so saturated. And they asked if that was going to continue on, and I said, well, I'll have to ask. But want to thank you for what you did last week for the other people, or earlier this week for them. So that's really all I had, Mayor and Mike. So thank you very much, and everybody stay safe.
All right, thank you, Danny.
I think we can. It's easy enough to have it open just during the day. As long as there isn't anybody going down there and taking advantage of it, dumping stuff. So we could probably figure on extending that next week as well. This Saturday would just be the only thing. We don't have anybody on a rotation to work that this Saturday. So, but I think we could probably extend that weekdays next week.
Okay. Kevin Ritter, you have anything for the good of the group tonight?
Mayor, I do not. Thank you.
All right. Kevin Hanemichael?
Yes, I do. Just a couple of things. I'll try to keep it short. First, Mayor, I want to say you are doing a great job of running a meeting with remote participants. I know sometimes that's difficult, but I really like the way that you're running through and calling on us. So thank you. I want to commend Mike for his response to the flooding situation on 95th Street. That was truly a life safety threat, especially given that was really a pretty minor rainfall event that caused the flooding. I happen to have firsthand knowledge of just how bad it was, including the water depth and just how fast the water came up. I did drive by there on Tuesday when we had that afternoon thunderstorm. I believe it was Tuesday, and there was a fire department vehicle monitoring the crossing. Which was great. They already had the culvert opened up by then. Otherwise, I am absolutely certain that would have been another major flooding situation. So thank you, Mike. Good job jumping on that. It's interesting that we've experienced a couple of significant infrastructure failures in our community in the last couple of weeks. Really, neither of them were really ours, but the K-10 bridge, and I think that lane is. It may still be closed because the plate moved, and then the Sunflower Culvert, but both highlight the need to pay attention to infrastructure maintenance and replacement. And, we need to do that for our own facilities as well. You know what, on the culvert, if Sunflower doesn't want to claim that land, then maybe we need to claim the right to the railroad passage there. So we'll see how that plays out. And then my last comment, I really want to commend Mike and this council for the professionalism of our online presence. In my job function, I've had the opportunity to experience other cities' remote meetings, and we are doing a great job and creating a very workable remote meeting environment. Certainly, there's some things that we can build on and continue to improve on, such as the in-room camera. Being remote, you feel a little bit disengaged because of the distance. The camera, maybe how we monitor in-meeting chat, messages to staff, that sort of thing. But the current situation is very productive. I feel real good about our position in the community. So thanks to Mike and for the council for supporting the investment in the equipment and the willingness to do it this way. I hope that we take this experience forward in the way that we conduct meetings in the future, and in particular in the way that we engage the public in a variety of situations, because it does create additional opportunities for public engagement for people who maybe don't have the time, maybe they have a schedule conflict, or maybe they have the inability to attend a meeting and participate and truly engage. I know I'm seeing it, and maybe some of you are as well in public involvement settings that are occurring with ongoing public infrastructure projects or community planning projects by using these tools every day. So good work. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Lori?
No, I don't have anything other than kind of similar along what Kevin was saying. Just good work, Mike. I know you're working hard and long hours and a lot going on, and just want you to know that we really do appreciate how you're keeping this all pulled together for
I
us.
see it as an opportunity to build a whole different skill set and do every day. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the encouragement.
Rob?
Yeah, no, appreciate the thoroughness of the reports you give us and the ease with which you make it to understand. I actually didn't have anything until Danny spoke up. Go ahead and bring up the map of 83rd and Corliss over in that area. You may want the Google view if that is. So, 83rd and Corliss. So go ahead and put the Google view there, looking to the northeast corner.
Oh, you want the street view here?
Yeah, street view. Yeah. So
Northeast corner.
right there, the question would be, there's a tree that came down
Oh yeah. Okay.
and it's right next to the road. So would that be a right of way city issue, or would that be a property owner issue? And when I say a tree, we're not talking a little tree. We're talking, I mean, you've seen it.
No, I actually haven't. I just
Oh.
heard about it.
Yeah, we're talking one that's probably 4 feet in diameter at the base, 3 feet. I mean, I think it's in the shadows there. It's one of the big ones. So just might have somebody look at that and see, is that
Okay.
in a right of way area? Is that not a right of way area?
Was it on the street and then?
No, luckily it
okay.
fell
Okay.
into the other trees, but had it fallen into that road, it would have absolutely blocked the
Yeah.
entire road.
I'll have Ron have a look.
So-
I know during that windstorm, the fire department was out cutting limbs off the road.
Yeah, luckily it did fall into it, but we're talking pretty massive tree that is down.
Okay.
So, like I said, didn't have anything till he mentioned trees. And it's like, oh yeah.
Reminder.
All right.
Okay. I don't really have a lot. I guess I would just encourage us all to, we've made it through the stay home orders pretty well. I think we did a great job. So now as we start to ease out, I would just encourage the 8 people now that are listening along with us to continue to be aware, to maintain our distances, to think about what we're doing, and so that we can all continue to stay well.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're
Aye.
All right. Opposed?